She was just a housekeeper trying to survive. One song changed everything. The CEO who heard her voice had no idea she would challenge everything he believed about success. What happened next became the talk of an entire corporation, and reminded the world that sometimes the greatest talents are hiding in the most unexpected places. Act 1, Setup Scene 1, Protagonist Introduction. Amara Okoro was 32 years old, but her hands looked 50. The skin was cracked from years of bleach and detergent, the nails cut short and unpolished. Every morning at 4:30, she woke in her single room in the cramped quarters behind Zenith Towers, one of Lagos's most prestigious corporate buildings. The room smelled of kerosene and cheap soap. A narrow bed, a wooden chair, and a hot plate, that was her entire world. She had been a housekeeper for 6 years. Before that, she'd tried everything: market trading, hair braiding, even selling recharge cards on street corners. Nothing stuck. Nothing paid enough. Her younger brother, Chidi, was in his final year at the university, studying engineering. Every naira she earned went toward his fees, his books, his future. She was 25 when their parents died in a bus accident. She became a mother at 25 without ever being one. This morning was like every other. Amara tied her headscarf tight, pulled on her gray uniform, and stepped into the pre-dawn darkness. The building was silent except for security guards changing shifts. She took the service elevator to the executive floors, 15th through 20th. Her job was to clean before the important people arrived. To make sure they never saw her. She moved through the offices like a ghost. Emptying bins, wiping desks, vacuuming carpets. The furniture here cost more than she'd earn in 10 years. Leather chairs. Glass tables. Paintings that meant nothing to her but probably cost fortunes. Sometimes she'd pause at a window and look out at the city waking up. From this height, Lagos looked beautiful. The chaos and poverty disappeared into golden morning light. One day, she'd think. One day, Chidi will have an office like this. And it will all be worth it. But even as she thought it, the dream felt distant. Like watching a movie about someone else's life. Scene 2, Antagonist Introduction. Victoria Akinlade was 28 and already the director of corporate communications. Tall, light-skinned, always dressed in designer labels that whispered wealth. She drove a white Range Rover with custom plates, VE Boss. Her father owned 3 hotels. Her mother sat on charity boards. Victoria had never struggled for anything in her entire life. She wore her privilege like armor. At meetings, she spoke over people. In hallways, she expected others to move. Her office was on the 18th floor, overlooking the lagoon. She'd redecorated it twice in 2 years because she got bored with the aesthetic. The walls were now ivory with gold accents. Her desk was imported Italian marble. Victoria had a particular disdain for the cleaning staff. She called them the help and never learned their names. If she saw them in hallways, she'd wrinkle her nose as if they carried disease. Once, she'd made a janitor redo an entire floor because she claimed it smelled poor. But beneath the designer clothes and expensive perfume, Victoria was afraid. Afraid her father would see she wasn't as brilliant as he believed. Afraid her colleagues would discover she'd gotten her position through connections, not competence. Afraid that without money and looks, she was nothing. So she protected herself the only way she knew how, by making sure everyone else felt smaller. This morning, Victoria arrived at 8:30. Late by corporate standards, but she didn't care. She was the boss's favorite. Rules bent around her like light around a black hole. Scene 3, the inciting incident. Amara was on the 19th floor, cleaning the executive conference room. The massive table could seat 20 people. She'd polished it until she could see her reflection, tired eyes, thin face, the permanent worry line between her eyebrows. She was alone. Or so she thought. Without meaning to, she started humming. Then, softly, singing. It was an old hymn her mother used to sing while cooking. The melody was sweet and mournful, full of longing for something better. Amara's voice filled the empty room, pure and powerful. For those few minutes, she wasn't a housekeeper. She was herself. Odigi unidaika gi. There is no one like you. The Igbo words flowed like water. Her voice climbed and fell, carrying years of pain and hope. She closed her eyes, lost in the memory of her mother's kitchen, the smell of jollof rice, the feeling of being loved. She didn't hear the door open. Victoria stood in the doorway, her expensive heels silent on the carpet. Her face twisted with something ugly, disgust mixed with jealousy. Here was this nobody, this cleaner, singing like she had a right to joy. Like she belonged in this space. "What," Victoria said, her voice sharp as broken glass, "do you think you're doing?" Amara's eyes flew open. The cloth dropped from her hands. Her heart hammered. "I'm sorry, Ma. You were just what? Performing? Auditioning?" Victoria stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. "This is a place of business. Not your village church. Or did you forget where you belong?" Heat crept up Amara's neck. "I didn't mean to disturb, you didn't mean. You people never mean to." Victoria circled her like a predator. "You come into our spaces, touch our things, and you think you can just sing? Like you have talent? Like you matter?" The words landed like slaps. Amara stared at the floor, her throat tight. "Look at me when I'm speaking to you." Amara lifted her eyes. Victoria's face was beautiful and terrible. Behind her, through the glass conference room walls, other early arrivals had stopped to watch. None intervened. "If I ever hear you again," Victoria said slowly, "making noise in this building, you'll be back on the streets where you belong. Do you understand?" "Yes, Ma." "Yes, Ma, what?" "Yes, Ma." "I'm sorry, Ma." Victoria smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Good. Now clean this room properly. It smells like poverty." She swept out, leaving Amara trembling. Scene 4, Secret Observer introduced Tobias Okonkwo watched from his office across the hall. At 43, he was the CEO of Zenith Corporation, the youngest person to ever hold the position. His office took up half the 20th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Minimalist furniture. Awards lining one wall. Forbes had called him Nigeria's most innovative business mind. He'd built his empire from nothing, a scholarship kid from Enugu who'd studied abroad and returned to revolutionize tech infrastructure across West Africa. He'd been reviewing quarterly reports when he heard the singing. At first, he'd been annoyed at the distraction. Then the voice had stopped him cold. It was extraordinary. Hauntingly beautiful. Raw and trained at once. He'd stepped to his door and seen her, the small woman in the gray uniform, eyes closed, completely absorbed in her song. Then Victoria had appeared. And Tobias had watched the entire exchange. He'd seen Victoria humiliate people before. He'd always told himself it wasn't his business, that HR should handle personnel issues. But something about this moment felt different. The cleaner's quiet dignity in the face of cruelty. The way she'd apologized for existing. He remembered being 17, cleaning offices in London to pay for his accommodation while he studied. He remembered a wealthy student spilling coffee on his textbooks and laughing. He remembered the shame. Tobias returned to his desk but couldn't focus. He pulled up the employee database and searched the cleaning staff roster. Third name down, Amara Okoro, 32, employed 6 years, no disciplinary issues, perfect attendance record. He opened a new search window and typed her name into social media. Nothing. She didn't exist online. No Facebook, no Instagram, no digital footprint. A ghost in the modern world. Who are you? He wondered. He made a decision then, one he didn't fully understand. He would find out more. Quietly. Without interfering directly. But something about Amara Okoro had awakened something in him, a memory of struggle, or maybe just a recognition of worth that others couldn't see. He picked up his phone and made a call. "Michael?" I need you to do something for me. Discreetly. But Amara Okoro had no idea her life was about to change. She finished cleaning the conference room, hands shaking, and moved to the next office. She didn't sing again that day. She barely breathed. ACT 2, Rising Action Scene 5, Aftermath and Daily Struggle. 3 days passed. Amara moved through the building like a shadow, terrified of drawing attention. She arrived earlier, left later, spoke to no one. At night, in her small room, she'd lie awake replaying Victoria's words. You think you matter? Her only friend at Zenith was Ngozi, another housekeeper who'd worked there for 12 years. Ngozi was 50-something, round-faced, always humming gospel music under her breath. They'd share lunch in the service stairwell, Amara's Gary and groundnuts, Ngozi's leftover beans. Why so quiet these days? Ngozi asked on the 4th day, watching Amara pick at her food. Just tired. Tired or afraid? Amara looked up sharply. Ngozi's eyes were kind but knowing. I heard what Miss Victoria did. The whole floor heard. Ngozi shook her head. That one has a black heart. But don't let her steal your joy, NNE. Your singing is a gift. My singing is a problem. No. Ngozi gripped her hand, rough palm against rough palm. Your singing is who you are. Don't let anyone take that. But Amara couldn't afford philosophy. That evening, she called Chidi. Sister me. His voice was bright with youth. How far? I'm fine. How are exams? Stressful, but I'm managing. The engineering project is killing me, but, do you need anything? Money for materials? No. You sent enough last month. Sister, when will you rest? When will you do something for yourself? Never, she thought. Soon. Just focus on your studies. After the call, Amara counted the cash in her envelope under the mattress. 23,000 naira. Chidi's next fee payment was 40,000. She had 6 weeks to find the difference. She looked around her room, the cracked walls, the single window overlooking an alley, the smell of mold that never left. This was her life. This was all it would ever be. She lay down and closed her eyes, but she didn't sleep. Scene 6, First anonymous gift. The next morning, Amara found something strange on her cleaning cart. A small package wrapped in brown paper, no name, no note visible. She looked around, the service corridor was empty. She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a pair of gloves. Not the cheap rubber ones the company provided, but proper cleaning gloves, thick, comfortable, the kind that protected hands. And underneath, a handwritten note on expensive cardstock, for hands that work hard and create beauty. You are seen. Amara read it 3 times. Her vision blurred. When was the last time someone had given her anything? When was the last time anyone had seen her as more than a uniform? She clutched the gloves to her chest and cried in the stairwell for 5 minutes. Then she washed her face, put on the new gloves, and got back to work. But something had shifted. Someone, somewhere, had noticed. Someone cared. She wore those gloves every day. They became her armor. Scene 7, Observer's investigation. Tobias's assistant, Michael, was efficient and discreet. Within 2 days, he'd compiled a full report on Amara Okoro. Tobias read it in his office after everyone had gone home. Parents, deceased, 2017, bus accident. Brother, Chidi Okoro, 21, University of Lagos, engineering student. Education, Amara had attended university for 1 year before dropping out after her parents' death. Scholarships forfeited. Dreams abandoned. Previous employment, 7 different jobs in 6 years. Nothing lasted because she kept leaving for positions that paid better, trying to keep her brother in school. Debts, none. She paid everything on time, no matter how little she earned. Savings, estimated less than 30,000 naira. Dreams, unknown. Tobias leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. This woman was raising her brother alone on a housekeeper's salary. This woman had attended university. This woman had a voice that could fill concert halls. And she was emptying bins on the 19th floor. He thought about his own sister, who'd helped him through school. She'd worked 3 jobs so he could study abroad. She'd died before he became successful, before he could pay her back. Before he could say thank you properly. He saw his sister in Amara Okoro. And he saw himself, the boy who'd cleaned floors and dreamed bigger. He called Michael again. I want you to do something else. Quietly. Sir? Find out what she needs. What would make her life easier? But she can't know it's from me. Or from anyone at this company. Understood? Understood, sir. Tobias hung up and looked out at Lagos at night, millions of lights, millions of stories, millions of people struggling just like Amara. But he could only help one. So he would. Scene 8, antagonist escalates. Victoria noticed the gloves. Of course she did. She noticed everything that disrupted her sense of order, her belief that people stayed in their assigned places. Nice gloves, she said one morning, her voice dripping false sweetness. She'd cornered Amara in the executive kitchen. Someone give you a gift? Yes, Ma. Amara kept her eyes down. How wonderful. Someone thinks you're special. Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. Let me give you advice, cleaner. When people give you things, they want something back. Nobody gives for free. Remember that when your mysterious benefactor comes collecting. She left Amara standing there, doubt creeping in like poison. But Victoria's cruelty didn't stop at words. Over the next 2 weeks, she began a campaign of small tortures. She'd spill coffee deliberately and watch Amara clean it. She'd leave her office in deliberate disarray. She'd schedule meetings in rooms Amara had just cleaned, then complain about dust. Other employees noticed. Some looked away, uncomfortable. A few, like Marcus from finance, started leaving encouraging notes. You're doing great. Don't let her break you. But most stayed silent. Victoria was powerful. Victoria was connected. You didn't challenge Victoria unless you wanted your career destroyed. Amara endured. Because what choice did she have? Scene 9, second and third gifts. 2 weeks after the gloves, Amara found groceries in her room. She'd come back from work to discover bags on her chair, rice, beans, yams, palm oil, sardines, even a small pack of chicken. Enough food for a month. Another note, no one should have to choose between eating and helping family. You deserve both. Amara sat on her bed and sobbed until she had no tears left. The third gift came another week later, an envelope with cash. 15,000 naira. The note read, for the brilliant engineer. From someone who believes in both of you. This time, Amara didn't cry. She felt something else, a dangerous thing called hope. She started standing a little taller. Smiling at Ngozi. Humming again, softly, when she was sure she was alone. The gifts didn't solve everything, but they gave her breathing room. They gave her proof that goodness existed. She worked harder, trying to deserve the kindness. She stayed later, cleaned deeper, took pride in making everything perfect. If someone was investing in her, she'd show them they hadn't made a mistake. But Victoria saw the change. And Victoria didn't like it at all. Scene 10, protagonist's small victory. The building manager, Mr. Adebayo, called Amara to his office one afternoon. She went terrified, certain Victoria had complained about her. Instead, he smiled. Miss Okoro, I've been reviewing performance reports. Your work is exceptional. Consistently rated highest among the cleaning staff. He leaned forward. I'm promoting you to lead housekeeper. 20% pay increase, and you'll supervise the 15th through 17th floors. Amara couldn't speak. You start next Monday. Congratulations. She floated through the rest of the day. 20%. It meant she could pay Chitty's fees with room to spare. It meant dignity. It meant someone had noticed her work, not just her mistakes. That evening, she called Chitty and told him. His whoop of joy echoed through the phone. I told you, sister. I told you things would get better. For the first time in years, Amara let herself believe it. But on Monday, when she arrived in her new position, Victoria was waiting by the service elevator. Her smile was a knife. Congratulations on your little promotion. She stepped closer. Don't get comfortable. Scene 11, the sabotage. Victoria's plan was simple and vicious. On Wednesday afternoon, during a major client meeting on the 18th floor, Victoria's diamond bracelet went missing. The bracelet her father had given her for her birthday. Worth 2 million naira. She made sure everyone knew it was missing. Security was called. The floor was locked down. And Victoria, tears streaming down her beautiful face, said she'd last seen it in the executive lounge, the room Amara had cleaned that morning. I'm not accusing anyone, Victoria said, her voice trembling with false distress. But the only people with access were staff. And she was the only one in that room. All eyes turned to Amara. Mr. Adebayo looked pained. Miss Okoro, I need you to come with me. The interrogation room was small and cold. Security officers asked questions. Did she take it? Where was it? Why would she steal? I didn't, Amara kept saying. I never touched anything. I just cleaned. Can anyone verify that? No. I was alone. They searched her room. Her cart. Her locker. Nothing. But the absence of evidence wasn't proof of innocence, not when Victoria was crying and insisting she must have hidden it somewhere. We'll have to suspend you pending investigation, Mr. Adebayo said quietly. I'm sorry. Amara walked out of Zenith Towers in the middle of the day, stunned. Other staff watched her leave. Some whispered. Some looked sympathetic but said nothing. Ngozi caught her at the gate. I know you didn't do it, NNE. Everyone knows. But that girl has power. What do I do? Pray. And wait. Truth always comes out. But Amara wasn't sure she believed that anymore. She went back to her room and lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling hope drain out like water through cupped hands. Scene 12, observer steps in. Tobias heard about the incident within an hour. He called Mr. Adebayo to his office. Tell me exactly what happened. Adebayo explained, the missing bracelet, the accusation, the suspension. And you believe she took it? Sir, I don't know what to believe. Miss Victoria is very insistent. And Miss Okoro had access. So did 20 other people. Security. IT. Other executives who use that lounge. Tobias leaned forward. But you only suspected her. Why? Adebayo shifted uncomfortably. She's the obvious suspect, sir. Because she's poor. Because she's a housekeeper. Tobias's voice was cold. That's what you mean. Sir, I didn't pull the security footage. All of it. Every camera on that floor from 7 a.m. to noon. And don't tell anyone I asked for it. Yes, sir. Tobias spent the next 3 hours reviewing footage himself. He watched Amara enter the executive lounge at 7:45 a.m. She cleaned methodically, emptying bins, wiping surfaces, vacuuming. She never went near the counter where Victoria claimed she'd left the bracelet. She left at 8:12 a.m. At 9:30 a.m., Victoria entered the lounge. She looked around, making sure she was alone. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out the diamond bracelet, and placed it deliberately on the counter. She took a photo with her phone. Then she picked up the bracelet, put it back in her purse, and left. At 2:15 p.m., she returned and discovered it missing. Tobias watched the footage 3 times, fury building. Then he made 2 calls. One to Mr. Adebayo. One to his lawyer. We have a problem, he said. and we're going to fix it. Today. Scene 13, Vindication. The next morning, Amara was called back to Zenith Towers. She went expecting to be fired officially. Instead, she was led to the main conference room, the big one, where board meetings happened. Inside were Mr. Adebayo, 3 security officers, Victoria, and a man in an expensive suit she didn't recognize. "Miss Okoro," the man said. "I'm Mr. Okafor, head of corporate legal. We need to show you something." They played the security footage on the large screen. Amara watched herself clean. Watched herself leave. Then watched Victoria enter and stage the entire thing. The room was silent except for the sound of the video. When it ended, everyone turned to Victoria. Her face had gone pale, then red, then pale again. This is edited," she stammered. "Someone tampered with, the footage was pulled directly from our secure server," Mr. Okafor said calmly. "With timestamps and metadata intact. Our IT department has verified its authenticity. This is ridiculous." "Why would I? That's what we'd like to know, Miss Akinlaid." Mr. Adebayo's voice was tired. "Why would you frame an innocent employee?" Victoria's mouth opened and closed. No words came. Mr. Okafor turned to Amara. "Miss Okoro, on behalf of Zenith Corporation, I apologize. You have been completely vindicated. Your position is restored immediately, with back pay for the days you were suspended. Additionally, the company will be taking disciplinary action against Miss Akinlaid." Amara couldn't process it. Vindicated. Restored. She'd been telling the truth, and finally, someone believed her. "As for you, Miss Akinlaid," Mr. Okafor continued, "your employment is suspended pending a full review. You'll hear from us within a week regarding your status." Victoria stood abruptly, her chair scraping. "My father will, your father," a new voice said from the doorway, "has already been informed." Everyone turned. Tobias Okonkwo stood there, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Okonkwo," Victoria breathed. "Sir, I can explain, no need." The video explained everything. He stepped into the room. "This company was built on integrity. We don't tolerate lies. Or cruelty. Collect your things. Security will escort you out." Victoria's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. But no one moved to comfort her. She'd burned every bridge. She left the room without another word. Tobias turned to Amara. Their eyes met for the first time. She saw something there, recognition, respect, something she couldn't name. "Miss Okoro," he said quietly. "I'm glad the truth came out. You deserve better than this." Then he left before she could respond. Amara stood in the conference room, surrounded by people apologizing, and felt like she was dreaming. Ngozi was waiting in the hallway. She hugged Amara so hard her ribs ached. "I told you," Ngozi whispered. "Truth always comes." But Amara kept thinking about the CEO's eyes. The way he'd looked at her. Like he knew something she didn't. Like this wasn't over. ACT 3, Climax and Resolution. Scene 14, big reveal set up 2 weeks later, Amara received an invitation. Not in her work inbox, those didn't exist for housekeepers, but a physical envelope slipped into her room while she was working. "You are cordially invited to the Zenith Corporation Annual Gala. Friday, 7 p.m. Eden Hall. Attire, formal." Amara stared at it. This had to be a mistake. The gala was for executives, board members, major clients. Not housekeepers. She asked Mr. Adebayo about it. "It's not a mistake," he said, looking puzzled himself. "Several staff members were invited this year. The CEO wanted to recognize outstanding employees across all departments. But I don't have anything to wear to something like that." Mr. Adebayo smiled. "I suspect that's been taken care of." He was right. That evening, another package appeared. Inside was a dress, not flashy, but beautiful. Deep emerald green, simple and elegant. The right size, as if someone had measured her in her sleep. The note said, "For a voice that deserves to be heard. Please come." Amara knew then. The gloves. The food. The money. The investigation that had saved her. All of it connected to one person, though she couldn't imagine why. She decided to go. Not because she felt she belonged, but because someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to get her there. The least she could do was show up. Scene 15, the event Eden Hall was overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers. A string quartet. Waiters in black tie carrying trays of champagne and canapes. Women in designer gowns. Men in tuxedos. Amara stood in the entrance, paralyzed. "You look beautiful." Ngozi appeared beside her, also invited, wearing a purple dress that made her look regal. "Come. We belong here as much as anyone." They entered together. Heads turned, not in judgment, but in curiosity. Who were these women? "The housekeeping staff," Whispers said. "The ones who keep everything running." Marcus from finance waved at them. "You made it. Come, there's food." Slowly, Amara relaxed. People were kind. Some executives she'd only seen from a distance came over to introduce themselves, to thank her for her work, to say they were glad about what happened with Victoria. But she kept scanning the room for one person. Then she saw Victoria. The former executive was there with her parents, trying to maintain dignity. Her father's hotel sponsored the event, so she couldn't be excluded. But people gave her space. She'd been exposed, and the elite had long memories. Their eyes met across the room. Victoria looked away first. Amara felt no satisfaction. Only sadness for what cruelty did to people. Scene 16, identity reveal at 8 o'clock, the CEO took the stage. Tobias Okonkwo looked different in a tuxedo, younger, somehow. His speech was about company values, about growth, about the people who made success possible. "We often celebrate the people in the spotlight," he said. "The executives. The deal makers. But companies don't run on deals alone. They run on dedication. On people who show up every day and do work that often goes unnoticed." He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd. 6 weeks ago, I witnessed something that reminded me why I started this company. I saw someone with extraordinary talent who'd been told she didn't matter. Someone who'd faced cruelty with dignity. Someone who'd put her own dreams on hold to help her family. Amara's heart began to pound. "Miss Amara Okoro, would you please come to the stage?" The room erupted in applause. Amara froze. Ngozi pushed her gently. "Go." Somehow, her legs carried her forward. She climbed the steps, trembling. Tobias smiled at her, a real smile, warm and genuine. "Many of you know Amara as part of our housekeeping team. What you don't know is that she's been anonymously helping her younger brother complete his engineering degree. What you don't know is that she attended university herself before circumstances forced her to leave." He turned to her. "And what you definitely don't know is that she has one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard." Amara's breath caught. "I heard you sing 6 weeks ago. That's when I realized that talent doesn't respect social class. That potential is everywhere, if we just pay attention. So I've been paying attention, Amara. I've learned your story. And I want to help you rewrite it." He handed her an envelope. "This is a full scholarship to complete your degree, any field you choose. Plus a signing bonus of 500,000 naira to help with your brother's remaining fees and to get you settled." The room spun. Amara couldn't speak. "But there's more," Tobias continued. "I'm also offering you a position in our new community outreach program. We're launching an initiative to discover and support talented individuals from underprivileged backgrounds. I'd like you to help lead it. You'll mentor others like yourself. And yes, you'll be compensated properly." Tears streamed down Amara's face. "Why?" she whispered into the microphone. "Why me?" Tobias's expression softened. Because 25 years ago, I was you. I was the scholarship kid cleaning offices in London. I was the one people looked through like glass. My sister worked 3 jobs to keep me in school. She died before I could pay her back, before I could show her what her sacrifice meant. His voice cracked slightly. When I saw you, I saw her. I saw myself. And I realized that having power means nothing if you don't use it to lift others. You reminded me where I came from. And you showed me where I need to go. The applause was deafening. People stood. Amara clutched the envelope and cried openly. Tobias shook her hand, then surprised her by pulling her into a brief, respectful hug. Thank you, he whispered so only she could hear. For reminding me what matters. Scene 17, Antagonist's downfall. After the presentation, Victoria approached. Her parents had left early, embarrassed. She stood alone in her expensive dress, no longer powerful, just young and lost. Congratulations, she said quietly. Amara looked at her. Thank you. I'm sorry. For everything. I was. Victoria's voice broke. I was afraid. Afraid I wasn't enough. Afraid that people like you, people with real talent, real strength, would show how empty I was. You're not empty, Amara said. You're just afraid. But fear doesn't have to make you cruel. I know that now. Victoria wiped her eyes. For what it's worth, your voice is incredible. I was jealous. I still am. Then do something with your jealousy. Turn it into motivation. Victoria nodded slowly. I'm moving. To Abuja. Starting over. My father's cutting me off to teach me a lesson. I'll have to work for real. Maybe that's what I need. She extended her hand. Amara took it. I hope you find what you're looking for, Amara said. I hope you keep singing. They parted as something close to peace settled between them. Not friendship. But the end of hostility. Sometimes that was enough. Scene 18, Transformation. 6 months passed like a dream. Amara enrolled at the University of Lagos, studying education. She wanted to teach, to help others find their voices. She still worked with Zenith Corporation, but in the new community outreach office on the 12th floor. She had a desk. A computer. Business cards with her name. Chitty graduated with honors and got a job at an engineering firm. At his graduation, he thanked her in his speech. My sister gave up everything so I could stand here today. She is the engineer of our family's future. Amara's room had changed too. Zenith provided staff housing, and she'd moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with a real kitchen and windows that let in light. She'd furnished it simply, a couch, a table, plants by the window. It smelled like home. But the biggest change was internal. She sang now. Openly. She'd joined the church choir and performed at community events. Tobias had even convinced her to record a few songs, traditional hymns and Nigerian folk songs. Nothing commercial, just beautiful. They played them sometimes in the Zenith lobby. People knew her now. Not as the cleaner, but as Amara. As someone with a story. As someone who mattered. Her friendship with Tobias grew carefully. They met for coffee once a week to discuss the outreach program. He'd tell stories about his sister. She'd share updates about the young people they were helping. It was professional. Respectful. But something deeper hummed beneath the surface, mutual recognition, shared understanding. They both knew struggle. They both knew resilience. They both believed in second chances. Scene 19, Final emotional beat. One Saturday morning, Tobias invited Amara to visit a place. He picked her up in his car, not the company Range Rover, but his personal Honda. Simple. Unpretentious. They drove to a small community center in Surulere. Children's voices echoed from inside. I bought this building last year, Tobias said as they walked in. I want to turn it into a music and art school. Free lessons for kids who can't afford them. I want you to help me design the curriculum. Inside, a group of volunteers was teaching children to sing. The sound was chaotic and beautiful, off-key and full of joy. Amara watched a little girl, maybe 7, belting out a song with absolute confidence. "That was me once," she whispered. "Before I forgot." "You didn't forget," Tobias said. "You just stored it away. Waiting for the right time." They stood side by side, watching the children. "My sister used to say that songs are prayers," Tobias said softly. "That when we sing, we're speaking directly to something bigger than ourselves. She said that's why music heals." She was right. "I think she'd like you." Amara looked at him. His eyes were distant, seeing something, someone else. "I think I would have liked her too." A little boy ran up to them. "Can you sing with us?" Amara looked at Tobias. He nodded. She followed the boy to the front of the room. The children gathered around her, their faces bright with expectation. She started singing, the same hymn she'd sung that day in the conference room. "Odigi Unidika Gi." The children joined in, their voices rising. Tobias watched from the back, his expression unreadable. But his eyes were wet. When the song ended, the children cheered. The volunteers clapped. And Amara felt something she hadn't felt in years, complete. Whole. Home. Outside, as they walked back to the car, Tobias spoke. "Thank you for saying yes. To the scholarship. To the job. To this." "Thank you for seeing me," Amara replied. "When everyone else looked through me." "I didn't see you," he said. "I recognized you. There's a difference." They stood in the afternoon sun, two people from different worlds who'd found common ground in struggle and hope. "Where do we go from here?" Amara asked. Tobias smiled. "Forward. Together. Helping people find their voices." "Sounds like a good plan." They shook hands. But it felt like something more, a partnership, a friendship, maybe the beginning of something neither of them could name yet. As Tobias drove her home, Amara looked out at Lagos, the chaos and beauty, the struggle and hope. She thought about where she'd been 6 months ago. The fear. The shame. The silence. She thought about where she was now. And she smiled. Scene 20, closing and moral. 3 years later, the Zenith Community Arts Center opened its doors officially. A 3-story building in the heart of Mushin, offering free music, dance, and art classes to hundreds of children. At the opening ceremony, Amara stood on stage, not as a housekeeper, not even as an employee, but as the director of educational programs. She'd completed her degree. She'd trained dozens of teachers. She'd helped transform lives. Tobias stood beside her, older now, grayer, but still driven by the same mission. "We started this because we believe talent is everywhere," Amara told the crowd. "But opportunity is not. This center exists to change that. To give every child the chance we both fought for." Children performed that day, singing, dancing, painting. Their parents watched with tears in their eyes. These were the children of housekeepers, security guards, market women, bus drivers. The invisible people. But their children were being seen. Victoria was there too, in the back. She'd returned to Lagos after 2 years in Abuja, humbled and changed. She'd started a small foundation helping young women develop business skills. She and Amara weren't close, but they respected each other. Sometimes that was enough. After the ceremony, Amara stood in the empty hall, remembering the conference room where she'd sung that first song. Where everything had changed. Tobias found her there. "What are you thinking?" "That I almost disappeared. That I almost let shame silence me." "But you didn't." "Because you wouldn't let me." She turned to him. "Because one person noticed. One person cared. One person recognized your worth. The rest was you." They stood in comfortable silence. "Do you still sing?" he asked. "Every day. In the shower. In the car. In my heart. Your mother would be proud. So would your sister." Tobias nodded. "They're both watching, I think. Smiling at what we've built." Outside, Lagos hummed with life. Millions of stories. Millions of struggles. But in this one building, in this one moment, hope was louder than despair. Amara Okoro was no longer just a housekeeper trying to survive. She was an educator, a mentor, a voice for the voiceless. Her story had become a beacon for others, a reminder that sometimes the help we need comes from unexpected places, carried by people who remember their own pain. That sometimes the cure for invisible suffering is simply being seen. That kindness is never wasted. That every voice deserves to be heard. And that the smallest act of recognition can change an entire life. The children's laughter echoed through the halls, the sound of futures being rewritten, one song at a time.